Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. It's Saturday, December 28th. And gosh, I think that's the last time I'm going to say Saturday. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Mark and I have decided to cease dropping episodes on the weekends. And we did so with a lot of encouragement from you all. So we thank you for that. We are still answering your emails and we are still bringing you on the program Monday through Friday. But for the weekends, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Of course, we are happy to receive your questions 7 days a week. And if you've got a financial question, all you need to do is go to our website, jillonmoney.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, click the Contact Us button, write us a note. And if you want to join us live, check the box and Mark will do everything else. Hey, while you're on the website, just a few more days for you to lock in the $35 price for Jill on Money Live. Yep, for $35, you will have access to quarterly live webinars, the back catalog, more bonus content, and that $35 is going up to $45 at the beginning of next year in just a few days. So maybe you want to do that right now. It's a very good idea. Okay, so for this last weekend of the year and the last weekend of our broadcast, unless, of course, there is some sort of weird emergency, I promise we'll drop something if something's going on. But for the regularly scheduled shows, our last weekend, we have a special guest. He is a friend of the pod. His name is Joe Saul-Sehy. He is a podcaster. He is an author. His podcast is called Stacking Benjamins. It's really great. He used to be a financial planner. And he and I became acquainted some time ago. And it was really great because he was in New York City and we got to sit down in his studio and talk to him about his background and some of his thoughts about how to get financial advice. And I think it's a great way to finish up the year. So here is the first part of our interview with Joe Saul-Sehy. So, Joe, for people who don't know your background, why don't you explain to us how it is that you started this podcast 14 years ago?
I was a financial planner for 16 years. And when I was turning 40, a mentor of mine wrote this email to, well, no, it wasn't even email. It was a printed out. I mean, this is a while ago, right? Printed out, had it and put it in everybody's mailbox that he was leaving. Yeah. And this was more of a company, Jill, like a lot of the companies back 16 years ago, where you'd leave the company and the next morning it's Jerry Maguire, right? For people that don't know the old movie, everybody's calling the client, trying to get the client to come with them. So nobody gives 2 weeks notice.
Right.
But Chris had this wonderful message that was, I really like being in financial planning, but I don't love it. I don't think it's the only thing. And unless reincarnation is real and I can do this all over again, I don't want to waste my life doing something that's only 85%. And that really hit me.
Wait a minute. So this guy is writing like a Jerry Maguire kind of letter. Which
he totally is.
I don't know if I'd want to do that. I'm not sure I'd want to put myself out there like that. But okay. So, but he's your mentor. You love him. But wait, let's go back beyond that.
Okay.
You grew up where?
Well, there's even more to that story, but yes.
I'll get back to that story.
Yeah, that's fine. I grew up in Redneck, West Michigan.
Okay. Redneck, West Michigan.
Fantastic.
We have friends who are in Redneck, West Michigan, I think.
I love West Michigan.
What got you involved in financial planning in the first place?
You know what's funny? I would watch shows like, CBS This Morning or the Today Show, and I'd see these geniuses like Jill Schlesinger that always seemed to have these cool quirks. Hey, if you do this at the grocery store, if you do this with your utility bills, I thought all that stuff was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then I'm working in this dead-end job in college, just graduating. And at that time, I had this great friend, Marcus Wilson. And Marcus writes me this note and says, Joe, and this is a quote, he says, "We don't normally hire people like you. Creative writing major, nothing to do with finance." He goes, "But I think you'd be really good at this job." So I went into it. This is the very early 90s. At that time, it's all sales, right? And I was very good at it because different than a lot of financial majors, I could just talk plainly like the guy next door about your money. I'm like, listen, here's how I'm screwing this up. This is what you do differently.
Right.
And bam.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in a financial planning firm, and now we'll flip forward to your mentor leaves. He says, don't do it unless you're 100% in it. He was only 85% in it. What did he go on to do, by the way?
Well, here's the deal. At the bottom of that, he said, I think I have other mountains to climb. I've done a really good job of saving. I don't know that I can stay retired forever, but I think I can go chase and figure out what it was. What's cool is my friends and I, we thought he was being metaphorical.
Yeah.
not being metaphorical at all, he went on to climb almost all the tall peaks on Earth. He now runs an adventure travel company. He's climbed Everest twice. This dude was serious when he said he had other mountains to climb. But that really hit me. I was turning 40, and I was like, you know
Married with kids
what?
already?
Married, young kids, yeah.
Making good money?
Making great money. And as you know, at that point, after you swim that financial planning moat, it becomes a really good job and a lucrative job, right? At the same time.
Were you doing straight up financial planning, or were you selling insurance? Were you putting people in mutual funds? Like, how'd you charge?
Dual hat. Well, at the beginning, of course, it was commissions only. That was just the business at the time. And then switched over to dual identity, which was wild. Hey, sometimes I'm going to be an insurance agent. Other times I'm going to be maybe selling a fund. Other times I'm just writing a financial plan and I'm a fiduciary. And it was up to me to explain that to clients. And
You're a CFP, right?
I would see, no,
What?
I'm not.
All right.
Well, and all of my licenses I let go.
Okay.
I let every license I had go because I didn't want to come back. I wanted to do the thing where you burn your ships.
Okay. All right. So you're selling stuff, you're making a good living, you're 40, it strikes you, and then is your wife working at that time?
She is working, yeah. And so then we go down to a one-income family. We're going to struggle, but thank God for Cheryl. She's like, you know what, if you're not feeling this, let's go find the thing. And I was lucky. So my business was a franchise.
Yeah.
I sell my franchise, which gives me a great big bag of money, too, to give me time.
Do you mind me asking how much you sold it for?
Yeah, I sold it for less than $1 million, but more than $500,000. So
hey, I can do that math.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Pre-tax or after tax?
It was a combination because of the way that you sell it, right? So there was part of it we did as an earnout, and part of it we did as pre-tax money.
But like, don't you find like that sounds like a big number when you're 40, but it's not that much money. But you had a runway.
Yeah.
You had enough money in the bank that
Absolutely.
and you'd saved money.
Yes.
And she's working.
Right.
And so now what?
Now then, I decided I'm going to do the thing that lights me up. Cheryl and I met coaching middle school track. So I was going to become an English teacher and a high school track coach and not make much money.
Weirdly, you're not doing that right now.
I'm not.
Interesting.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Right?
So what happened?
So I start off on that journey. And what's funny, if there's a lesson here for anybody, and this is, you and I interview a lot of people. I think the big lesson here is everybody's afraid to walk through the door, right? Because if I walk through the door, then all these other doors close. The truth is once you begin walking down the path, other doors that you didn't expect open. So I take all my classes to become a teacher. It's a post-bachelor teaching program at Texas A&M. I am, by the way, my partner in 2 of my classes was this woman, Whitney. Whitney, I am 40 years old. Whitney is 19. And you know how weird that was? And she's super smart. And
You're
she
like,
was,
oh, you're my child. But,
yes, exactly. I felt so old. But it was really fun. But the thing that I had great professors, and the thing I learned was, and this is sad because I know a lot of wonderful teachers, my teachers taught me I would be spending time fighting administrators. And one teacher, because we had to go audit classrooms, one teacher said, this wonderful woman, Ryan Murray, great teacher, she said, I try to make sure that my students don't know the emperor has no clothes. And she was fantastic at laying down the law, being very motivational and great, but don't mess with me. Even though she told me, she's like, if I send anybody to the office, nothing good happens. When they get to the office, nothing good happens. And so at the same time, I'm taking classes, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm home when my kids get home from school. My kids are freshmen in high school at this point. And I'm really loving this, my ability to be there for them. At the same time, because of all the PR work I had done, because my franchise was a franchise of American Express and then Ameriprise. So because I'd done so much PR for American Express, I was one of 12 advisors in the country that did nationwide stuff for them. I start getting calls from all my friends like, hey, you're a good writer. Could you write my client newsletter? Could you write my script for when I go on local TV? I start doing that, Jill, and then I do the math, and I'm like, I'm having fun teaching people about money, but I don't have to deal with any administrators. I can do it the way that I want, and as long as my client's happy, then I'm happy. And so I began just writing and quit before the program ended, and then started up a blog. The blog we called the Free Financial Advisor.
Right.
We made which by the way, I don't think financial advisors should be free, which is why we got that domain, and we taught people that, hey, we're bait and switch.
Right.
And then second, we started a podcast, which we called The Worst of the Free Financial Advisor, because we knew it was going to be horrible.
Right.
And that became Two Guys and Your Money became Stacking Benjamins, and then I got to sit here
when did it become
Joe.
Stacking Benjamins?
About a year and a half later.
Okay. So what year is this?
This is, oh my goodness. So now we're 14 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So 2011.
So this is the same thing. This is like right when I started my radio show was 2011. I mean, I was already at CBS, but my radio show launched in 2011 nationally. And how did we find each other?
I found you because I don't.
What?
Well, and I've said this 100 times to our Stacker audience that I don't listen to a lot of financial podcasts. I try to maybe a few times a month to listen to some shows. There's one show I've listened to forever, and it's your show. Jill on Money has gone with me on so many runs, and it's so fun, and and I believe our philosophies, as we've talked about, you and I many times without the camera running, our philosophies align so much that I'm always trying to guess, how's Jill going to answer this question?
But sometimes it's interesting when you have people like us who come from the industry and have now kind of crossed over into editorial, let's say, or know, the public speaking stuff, that part of it is that we can kind of call out BS when we see it. And so you've watched the industry evolve so much. How do you feel about the financial advisory planning business right now? What do you think's going on?
I'm really optimistic.
Yeah?
I am. Well, I'm an optimist by heart, right?
No
if you're
kidding.
an entrepreneur, you totally are.
Yeah.
But I believe that advice has never been more needed than now. Mm-hmm. Good advice has never been more needed than now. I think there's a lot more transparency around what bad advice is. And maybe that's because I bathe in it every day, right? And so I feel like I'm surrounded by all these great advisors. You hear all the time about people that aren't so good, but I just feel like we're headed toward much more same side of the table. The advisor is your friend. They're your agent. They're going to take care of stuff that you don't know how to take care of, or you do, and you're not going to waste your time spending 50 hours doing this. You're going to have somebody that can do it very quickly.
Right.
Take care of it for you. I think, though, this is what's disturbing. I think there's a lot of advisors at retirement age. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of room for young advisors. We're not seeing as many as I'd like.
Yeah.
I also think advisors of color. There are so many people of color that need financial advice and don't have somebody that look like them.
Yeah, women and people of color. I mean, for so long when I was working with the CFP board, and they said, we really want you to help us get more women and people of color. But the needle doesn't move. Why? Why do we think that? Why do we think that people don't come into this industry? I think it's because that a lot of folks are kind of spooked by the fact that there's a real sales component.
Oh, well, yes. Yeah.
And that's hard. Like,
sure.
If I could sit in a corner and do financial plans and someone could just give me the bit, So, how do you think we can get over that hurdle? Is it maybe that you become an advisor with a Fidelity or a Vanguard or a Schwab and you become part of their advisor network and you get fed the business? Is that something that's
I think I'd rather see people go in on the back end with one of these mature advisors that's maybe 5 to 10 years away from retirement. I mean, this would be the dream job, right?
Right.
If I can learn from somebody who's 5 to 10 years away from retirement, I can do the financial planning, the back end work. I can sit in the meeting and see how they work with their client. I think that's great. I think also, though, realizing that life is sales, Jill, and you know this.
Yes.
Even if we're not in sales, there's times with Cheryl and I, she needs to convince me what we're going to eat tonight, for dinner.
How does she do with that selling?
She wins
good.
every time.
Yeah, it's good.
Every single time.
When you look back at some of the things that happened in the 90s and the early 2000s, especially with the idea around life insurance or insurance products in general, have we seen an evolution or not?
No.
No.
Not nearly enough. I was lucky to attend a few years ago a symposium at MIT. Mm-hmm. There were people from the media there. There were financial advisors there. There were regular people off the street that were there, and people from the annuity industry. It was really interesting, this melting pot, and MIT got them all together. Mm-hmm. And I sat there as a journalist or member of the media and watched this happen. And it was horrible. The people in the audience told the annuity industry, told the insurance industry what bothered them. Mm-hmm. And the annuity and insurance industry is so embedded in their advisory sales network, and they'd have to dismantle all that so much that Jill, it was like...
But how, I mean, look, so you and I came of age when there were commission-based mutual funds,
Sure.
right? The very first mutual fund that was sold for an 8.25% upfront commission, right? And then it went to, 5 and 4. And now everyone can buy things for zero, right?
Yeah.
It's basically free to be a long-term passive investor. We have not seen anything like that in insurance. I've always heard about the promises, oh, no, there's going to be low-cost annuities and immediate annuities. No. They're really not in a widely available way.
You have to dig.
What is it that we can do? Because people do love the idea of a stream of income. I don't think anyone loves the idea of a whole life insurance policy, but I do think people like the idea of an annuity. Like
Sure.
You're going to convert a chunk of money into an income.
When you tell someone, wouldn't it be great to have a pension? There's not a person on earth that would go, oh, no, I don't want a pension.
Yeah, you gave it up by not being a teacher.
Right, well, exactly. Everybody loves pensions, but you say, oh, guess what an annuity is? If you use it right, it's a pension. Oh, I heard about annuities. I don't want that. I think that we need to do the same thing that a health insurance expert told me on our show. Scott Heiser said, the reason why your hospital visit costs so much is because nobody asks for the price sheet. Nobody asks, what does this actually cost? You're trained to ask. I'm trained to ask. But so many people aren't trained to ask. I think when more people go, what are the fees on this thing? Show me just the fee schedule.
But they obfuscate all the time. Like,
Absolutely.
What are the fees? Oh, it won't cost you anything. It comes out of the contract.
Well, legally, they have to show you
Yeah.
this projection, which is in-force sales projection that will lay out the fees on tables. But again, we don't know to ask for that.
Even if you do ask, it's sort of like a weird thing. I was just thinking when you said, people don't ask, like, what's it going to cost to go to the hospital? Like, how am I to judge? I'm not a medical expert.
Sure.
And the vast majority of people are like, if someone who's selling an annuity says, well, it costs you 2% a year. 2%, that sounds small.
Sure.
To the average person.
Yeah.
So where do you see, I almost feel like if we could I think that Fidelity is getting in this business. When you work with their advisors and they're selling immediate annuities, they are low-cost annuities.
Yeah.
It almost has to be through a place that is offering, 0% mutual funds or zero cost exchange traded funds. Like, it has to be someone who's got the ability to present something that's really cheap. But we don't see that in a widespread manner yet.
And a history of doing that too, by the way, at a Fidelity or a Vanguard or a Schwab.
We'll have part 2 with Joe tomorrow. But in the meantime, if you've got a question and something comes up after listening to this conversation, just go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, write us that note, and if you want to join us live on the air, check the box. Mark will do everything else. Don't forget to sign up for the free weekly newsletter. You can subscribe to us on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. And of course, lift someone up. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.